wonderful, enthusiastic people who've joined us this evening. Welcome to Parivartan 2K20 webinar series day 3. My name is Prajakta Bhagat. I'm a live host and a moderator, and I extend a very warm welcome to all the people who've joined us this evening. Well, we've got somebody very special, very iconic. He is regarded as the prodigy and one of the most esteemed and leading experts in the field of automobile sector. May I please invite Mr. Madhu Singh, Country Head and General Manager, Tata Motors Limited. Hello, sir. Good evening. Extending a very warm welcome. Greetings to you. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you, Prajakta. It's absolutely my honor and my pleasure.
All right. So just for our viewers who are not really well versed and acquainted with your background, I would like to quickly run through the wonderful and incredible work you've been doing over the years, so they're able to register and grasp, all the amazing stuff that you've been doing. He is the country head of one of largest international markets at Tata Motors. He has 15 years of techno-commercial experience in automotive business and has helped launch, nurture, and grow various brands in India and overseas. He has worked in various regions, including South Asia and Africa, and his key skills include brand management, problem solving, conflict resolution, and that's not it. He has some of the most renowned and notable recognitions for his title. So we are extremely intrigued and excited for having you on board in such a short duration. And I'm sure this day is definitely going to be marked because a lot of people have been marking their calendars and they've been looking forward to hearing your wonderful insights that you have gained over the years. So very firstly, to begin with, I would like to understand the journey you've had, from the time you started off your career. How was the inception in the first place, and what has been your personal mantra for success? Would you like to provide some gist for our viewers who are out there watching you?
Thank you, Prajakta. Firstly, welcome to all the viewers who are there with us live today. I think ACBM Global Mentor Academy is doing a phenomenal job, providing free of cost counseling to many of the young professionals as well as young students, because information overload is there in today's times, and people need the right amount of guidance and right kind of upskilling at this point in time. So I think you guys have taken up a good initiative and a good job, and I would like to thank my friend Vikas as well to introducing me to you to be a part of this. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. As far as my journey or my professional journey is concerned, immediately after doing my engineering as well as my MBA, I joined Tata Motors through campus placement, and this is my first company.
Oh, wow.
I
Wow.
have been with this company throughout my career. So
Wow.
I started in the passenger car business, which was quite new at that point in time for the company, and I was handling there in Delhi. I moved on to the head office, doing some critical assignments over there. After which I came back to Delhi as a state head for the commercial vehicles for Delhi and NCR. I also did a couple of assignments in marketing management for some of our products like Tata Magic and Tata Winger in the domestic market. So I was the national marketing manager for these two brands. Thereon I moved to the international business division of Tata Motors, and I was looking after the product management, which includes the brand management as well as the new product ideation and introduction for the small commercial vehicle line of business for Tata Motors. Uh, Thereon, I moved in as expat to Johannesburg to look after the Southern Africa operations of Tata Motors. I did a stint of about 3 years over there, after which I moved to another bigger market, which is Sri Lanka, down south in South Asia. And after finishing my 3 years stint in Sri Lanka, I moved to Bangladesh, looking after the operations there. So that's been the journey pretty much. And I must thank Tata Motors, my employer, to give a very well-rounded experience, and that's what Tata Motors is known for, to give a very well-rounded experience to its employees. Keep moving geographies, locations, functions, so that you are not in silos. And I think that's one advice that I would give to the youngsters as well, that do not try to be in a comfort zone. It feels very good to be doing the same job because you get a hang of it and you're on an autopilot after some time.
Mm.
But I think the moment you start getting into your comfort zone, that's the wake up call that you need to move out, because the growth happens
Absolutely.
beyond your comfort zone. Uh,
Absolutely.
And if you're talking about the success mantra, I think way back in school, one of my primary school teachers did the experiment of the paper burning experiment with a convex lens, wherein you converge all the sun's rays on a particular point on a piece of paper, and then with those rays you're able to burn that paper. So I think that was a very fantastic example of focus. So if you focus all your energies on one thing, I think that's where the success starts happening. So while these are the times of fast food and doing everything very very quickly and multitasking, but I think in few things, if you go back to basics and then focus on particular things, that's when you can do magic and wonders.
Absolutely. I think that was quite exciting to hear. I wanted to understand for a lot of people who aspire, to be where you are, who look forward to follow your path. And for any field to be successful, you need the right amount of ability, vision, perseverance, and hard work. So I wanted to understand about today's subject that we're going to be talking, that is integrated marketing and calibrating a brand. So, what is your vision and take on it? Why is it imperative considering today's circumstances and the current scenario?
So I think there's too much information out there, and too much clutter is out there. So when you're competing in that space as a brand, you need to declutter a lot of information. You need to simplify a lot of complex things, and that's why the integrated marketing communication, which is a very new subject, very very new subject. If you look at the marketing overall, as a discipline, it's a very new discipline, and that's why the study of it and the understanding of it becomes very very critical. So to help our students specifically who are viewing this today, I have put together a few slides to take them through some basic concepts. So if you allow
Sure.
me, I think I can put up a couple of those slides to take them through
Please.
briefly, what the communication is, what marketing communication is, and what integrated marketing communication, so that it sets the context, and post that we can take some questions
Absolutely.
from the
I
viewers.
think that'll be very ideal and informative for all the people who are watching.
Okay, just give me a moment. So if you could confirm, are you able to watch my screen?
Yes, sir. It's pretty clear.
Okay. So to save the bandwidth, I think I'll just put off my video so that I can talk to people and they can listen
Even
to
I
me.
am going on the mute, so there is no
Yeah,
disturbance.
sure, sure. And my internet is acting up a bit since morning. So if there's any issue, I think we will please excuse me for that, and we'll try to sort that out as soon as possible. Also, if viewers have any questions in between, I do not mind being interrupted, and we can take up those questions in the middle as well. So if anybody raises hands or anybody has questions in the chat box, we can take those questions as and when you like. So I think the first slide pretty much explains what integrated marketing communication is. I think it's the intertwining of a lot of communication modes of marketing, which come together to give a very integrated view to the consumer. And most of the companies really make the mistake here, wherein the communication is usually tailored from their perspective, and many brands engage very fine agencies, very big agencies, and they're trying to thrust upon a message that they want to communicate to the customers, and very often forgetting that this is not really what the customers need to hear or need to know about your brand. And that's where I think the customer centricity or the customer focus communication comes into picture, and that's what integrated marketing communication is all about. So marketing communication is a pretty simple word, terminology. As far as integrated is concerned, that literally means how all the media is integrated to give a very clear and unified message to the customers. This picture very clearly illustrates how Wikipedia was a couple of years ago. So even when I was growing up and I was in college and then getting into my post graduation, the internet was still not in its maturity. It was still coming up, and most of the information that we wanted to look for, we really had to go to some massive libraries like this and look for information. Uh, Today's era has completely changed when everything is available in your handset. All the information is available at a click of a button. The flip side of that is that there is too much information. There's too much information load, and hence the consumer that you're trying to woo is also facing this barrage of information which he or she is getting from a lot of brands. I think till just about 20 years ago, when we did not have the smartphones, most of our public transport used to look like this from the beginning of 1900 to the late 1900 or the 20th century. And when today's kids are being told by parents, why are you watching your screen all the time? I think many kids have started showing these kind of photographs to their parents that look, in your times as well, you used to look at the newspapers or any reading material. So I think the basic necessity and the need to consume information hasn't gone away. The only thing was that this newspaper would probably finish in about 30 minutes to 1 hour once the person was finished reading all this information. But with today's amount of channels and the amount of information which is available in your smartphone, that thing goes on right since morning till evening, and any person is consuming anywhere between 5 to 10 hours of screen time uh, per day, and that's too much of information. So the normal or the traditional view of marketing is to woo customers to take on your brand, and this picture illustrates that you have the same product available, uh, which is at, let's say, $100, and if it's slashed down to 100, which was literally known as the job of the marketer, you will have more customers coming in. Uh, Having said that, that's not what the overall marketing communication is, because that's a whole gamut of activities of communicating to the customer. And this is another perception of marketeers that normally people have. And Dilbert has given us some of the most amazing landmark communications over the period of time. And it says, well, it tends to overheat, where the marketer says that, okay, that's the hottest product on the market. And that's the kind of communication that people expect marketeers to do. In my opinion, the job of the marketing communication is nothing but to stand out and sharpen the focus of the communication. So for all our young viewers, especially people who are studying, if they can remember these two statements, the job of any marketing communication is to sharpen the focus of your message and to clearly stand out and to declutter your marketing message. If, as a marketer, we are able to achieve these two objectives, I think we are able to communicate very, very clearly to our audience. The marketing guru Philip Kotler, I think, describes integrated marketing communication in a very, very simple manner. And he says that this is a way to look at the whole marketing process from the viewpoint of the customer. And I think that's one thing that I would be highlighting, underscoring, and reiterating time and again, that whatever communication as well as the product offering or the service offering that we look at, until we keep the customer at the center of it, the whole marketing communication fails. Looking at a bit of history, I think the marketing has been as old as the civilization. And if you look at this little plate over there, which is a bronze plate, this communication comes from China. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is more than 2,000 years old. And this is one of the first recorded printed advertising communication form, wherein one business family called Liu family had a needle shop and they wanted to reach out to more customers. And this was their first form of printed advertising communication, which is recorded ever in history. Otherwise, marketing in its traditional form has always been existing. You have these traditional bazaars or the marketplaces, and that's where the word marketing or the market comes from, which is a Latin word called marketus, which goes on to define market or a marketplace, and then eventually marketing, the way of selling, which has changed to its more modern means and modern meanings in the last few decades. This picture is from the 17th century, when there was a Potter family in UK or Britain at that time, and these English potters were the first ones to really go on to hire salespeople to market their product and to go out and literally market the product that they were selling. And they're the first ones who realized that with more production they can actually bring down the cost of production and give them the economies of scale, which eventually came to that if you reduce the cost of production, you can reduce the price, and hence you can generate more demand. So that's where during the Industrial Revolution, somewhere in the 17th and 18th century in Europe, the greed took on, and marketeers were born in the new form of modern marketing communications, and they started communicating more and more. In about 1898, and this brand is still very popular, which is Michelin, or in French it is called Michelin. And in the center, you would see this bibendum or the Michelin man. And this was one of the first very popular logos uh, which were created. And if you see, these are because tires used to be white, for many of us who do not know yet, the tires initially used to be really white because rubber's natural color is white and not black. But it was only later on that carbon was added to the tire manufacturing process to give it more rigidity. So tires until about 1920, 1930 used to be white in color, and that's how the original Michelin man was in white, and later on it turned to black and all. And this is one of the most uh, long lasting, most enduring trademarks of a particular brand. FMCG companies like Sunlight and Peers came along, and these two ads that I'm showing you are from the early 1900, wherein they wanted to communicate to larger audience for their production, mass production, and go out and meet the need of the consumers. Around the same time, University of Pennsylvania started a course in marketing. So it's only in the last century that the course in marketing as a discipline started. And integrated marketing communications happened only around 1980s. This is about 1920s when Henry Ford started the assembly operations of car, and he was the first mass manufacturer of cars. Otherwise, before that, it used to be only customized cars. This was the first time that he started a mass manufacturing of cars, and his communication was very, very clear. He didn't want to give too many options to customers, and he said, you can have any color in Ford Model T as long as it is black. So that was the all choice that was given to consumers at that point in time. And he was very, very clear in terms of his marketing research as well at that time. And he said that if I was interviewing and researching my customers and asked them what they wanted to buy, I think they would say a faster horse, because that is all that they had till that point in time. So I was very clear what my customers wanted, and this is the product that they would have. Coming to our traditional 4Ps, and that you have on the right hand side, product, price, place, and promotion are the traditional 4Ps. And then came along the overall communication mix, which is largely a part of promotion. So the integrated marketing communication, the topic that we're discussing today, is nothing but a subset of promotions. And it has the whole subset of advertising, public relations, sales promotions, digital marketing, personal selling, direct marketing, and guerrilla marketing, and a lot more. So if you look at today, I think the consumer at the center, and you have all these multiple modes of communication with the internet coming in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. And many of media like YouTube and Google did not exist till about, let's say, 15 or 20 years ago. So this has created a lot of problem for the marketers today. So if you look at what it was there even about 30 years ago, it was largely the mass media in terms of only TV and print. So these were the only two large media which were available to the marketeers. So their job was to find out which channels. And if you look at India, till about 1990s, you only had Doordarshan. So you could only choose between the timings, and not much choice was available. And then between the newspapers, you could only look at whether it was a front page or the back page or somewhere in the middle, depending on the cost. And these were the only two options available. Today, if you look at, you have dozens and hundreds of options available for a customer to reach to its audience and to its customer. And the funny thing is that earlier it was only the brand who could communicate in one way to its customer. So it was not even communication, because by the sheer definition, communication is a two-way process. So it was only a one-way messaging from the brand to its customer. But if you look at today, customer has as many options to reach out to the brand. And it has become a double-edged sword. So while you can reach out to your customer in a very fast-paced manner, but if something goes wrong, the bad word of mouth spreads much faster. As they say, the bad reputation travels at least 10 times faster than the good information or the good positive news. So it has become a double-edged sword. And among this entire media, uh, marketers have to choose what particular options to choose, what is more effective for them. And that's where the integrated marketing communication is coming into picture. These days, you also have the retargeting ads. So for example, sometimes you would see that, why do I see only those ads that I'm interested in on my phone? Because with Google Analytics and all the search engines, the media has become very, very smart. They really know what you like. So it's become quite a problem as well, because there's a thing called confirmation bias in the cognitive studies, and that confirmation bias says that you are only looking for information that strengthens your pre-existing beliefs. So if you're looking for a flight ticket between London and New York, you will see that you have searched for it, and over the next 2 to 3 days, you will only be bombarded with all the targeted communication at you, giving you the various options of cheaper flight tickets between London and New York. And you wonder how they get it right, because there are a lot of cookies which are working to make sure they know what you are really looking for. In fact, in terms of news as well, if you have 4 or 5 popular topics or the topics of your interest, you will see that your Google, which is throwing up all the headlines of the day, is only showing you the headlines that you have searched for in the past, or that you have looked at in the past. And it is becoming very dangerous, because you are only fed with the information that you have searched for in the past, and you are not being given a neutral information like you had the newspapers earlier. And that's why you have 300 million people who are using ad blockers today, because they don't want to see the ads that you're showing them. So you have literally 300 million people who are saying, no, thank you, enough. I don't want to see these ads. And the problem with the banner ads is, and this picture beautifully describes that, there's only 0.03% chance of getting hit by lightning in a person's lifetime. And there's only as much chance of clicking on a banner ad. So that increases the problem of the marketeers, so that you're spending a lot of money on creating these banner ads and all, but you're still not able to get through to the right customer. And that's how you would see that integrated marketing communication is nothing but to describe the entire program by which you communicate with your customers, which is the face, personality, and spirit of the company and your brand, which must blend together to present a very unified message to your customer segment. And this message has to be very comprehensive, and it has to be a very, very consistent message across. So if you look at what are the reasons for growing importance of the integrated marketing communication, so we have moved, and I think I have covered a lot of these points in my earlier slides while I was talking to you. We have moved from media advertising to multiple forms of communication. And from mass media, we are moving to a very, very specialized media. In the past, you had manufacturer dominance. In India, if you look at it, there was a license raj. You could only produce as many motorcycles, as many vehicles, as many, you name it, but you could only produce that much. So the marketing was not very critical, to a point where you have a retailer dominance and you have multi-franchise brand outlets. From a general focus, we are moving to more database marketing. And I think it was none other than Mukesh Ambani who said that data is the new oil, and big data is the new thing, in the marketing communication, where all the organizations are trying to see how they can use their big data in a more meaningful manner. From low agency accountability, the most agencies have to now move to greater agency accountability. They cannot just say that they have made a beautiful film and that will do the job. So if you look at 90s and 2000s, you had a lot of filmmakers who were making very beautiful films, but they were not necessarily resulting in larger sales or higher sales for the company. And now the brands have started asking, while it's a fantastic creative, it's a fantastic storyline, but is it adding to my revenue? Am I getting more bang for the buck? And those are the questions that the marketers have started asking the agencies. And from a traditional compensation method, agencies have now moved to performance-based compensation. Only if you're getting leads, only if you're taking all the boxes, then only the agencies are getting compensated. So in a nutshell, in three lines, I will define it, that it's all about understanding the consumer and what the consumer actually responds to. Not all the messages you are bombarding the customer with, but what are the messages that will literally drive the behavioral change in the final target audience. Uh, Going forward, most of the integrated marketing communication is also working on uh, creating and building relationships with the customers that go beyond the pure selling of a product or service. And it is truer for those brands wherein the pricing is very high. So if a real estate company is selling houses, or an automobile company is selling automobiles or vehicles, which are very, very large ticket items, they need to make sure that they're owning the customer through the lifetime of the brand and lifetime of the product, and they're getting more share of the wallet of the customer. And hence, the integrated marketing communication requires collaboration on all fronts. So the job of the marketing communication department is not just when the product is about to be launched, they come in and they say, okay, tell me what I need to communicate. But they need to be involved right from the inception of the product. When the product is being ideated, when the product is being conceptualized, they need to be involved, and they need to be traveling that entire journey from ideation to the final launch of the customers, because the final ultimate aim of this entire strategy is to retain satisfied customers, but not just to produce new customers, because uh, retaining customers is much more cheaper than getting new customers. As they say, cost of acquiring a new customer is anywhere between 5 to 25 times more expensive than retaining a satisfied customer. And a satisfied customer already knows your brand. He is much more comfortable with your brand. So the communication has to make sure that you create more loyalty among the customers. Uh, Brand identity, which is a combination of a lot of factors: brand name, logo, symbols, design, packaging. You have studied all this in your marketing lessons and marketing classes. And IMC, which is integrated marketing communication, plays a very major role in the process of developing and sustaining brand identity and equity. And we will talk about that when we take up a few questions. So direct marketing is, yes, a part of IMC, and advertising and PR. So advertising is nothing but a paid form of communication, but PR is an unpaid form of communication. I just wanted you to understand a couple of differences between the two. So in terms of control, advertising, you have great control, but in PR, you don't have much control. But the credibility of advertising is much lower, but of PR is much higher. So you would understand that, if let's say a big personality, a big film personality is advertising a product, you know very well that this person is being paid to vouch for this product or to communicate the benefits of this product, vis-a-vis somebody who's not paid for it, and the credibility of that person or that source is going to be much higher. Reach, definitely, for advertising, it's much more measurable compared to PR. The frequency of advertising, it's up to you. You can decide it, but PR, you still need to struggle to control it. As far as the cost is concerned, for PR, it's normally very, very low or unspecified. Most of the times, it comes for free. But advertising has very high and specific cost. In terms of flexibility, yes, advertising is much more flexible, but PR is not. In terms of timing, advertising is very specific and PR is very, very tentative. The emergence of internet has thrown challenges as well as much more options for the marketeers to educate and inform customers. This has become a very, very persuasive advertising medium. So in today's times, there are very few brands who can literally afford to overlook this medium. And hence, it's very, very critical for all the marketeers to be very, very modern in terms of understanding of technology and the communication. Uh, this is how you can literally reach out to your target audience in today's integrated marketing communication. So there are multiple means and ways of reaching out to them, which are listed here. And you have studied most of these, so I need not go into the detail. But yeah, the job of the marketer in IMC is going to be literally to arrive at a symphony of this. So I think uh, if I were to give you a parallel or an analogy between integrated marketing communication and something else, it's like an orchestra performing on a stage. You know, when all those musicians are coming together and playing a tune, and when they're in the zone, you know, when they're literally closing their eyes to the audience, but they're performing to a particular tune, a particular symphony, and it comes out beautifully. And that's how the integrated marketing communication has to be. That is the ultimate objective of a marketer. This is my final slide in this, and then we will open the floor. So what are the you know, the planning model, or what are the steps that you really look at in terms of IMC? So the first and the foremost is you need to look at your overall marketing plan, because IMC is literally a subset of that. And you need to analyze your current situation, where you are in terms of brand. What is your brand perception, and where do you want to take it to? So there's always a gap between what an organization wants to project and how the customers perceive it. And that gap is usually filled in through the marketing communication, and that would be the job of the marketeers. You need to analyze your communication process, and most of the brands normally go through the journey of the customer to understand what are the various moments of truth that a customer interacts with the brand. And after analyzing and mapping that entire journey, you literally pinpoint how are you going to reach to that customer at each and every stage. Research normally shows that to reaching to the customer and finally the customer making up his or her mind, you need to have at least 7 to 9 touch points or moments of truth where you can interact with the brand before the customer makes a final choice. And this job has literally become very, very difficult with so much of information load, because your competitors are also trying to woo the same customer. They're fighting for the same market pie, and hence there's a big fight for the market share. And that's where the budget comes in, and there are various methods of looking at the budget. So one way of looking at it is that only this much is what I can really afford as a company to spend on marketing. So that's the affordability criteria of budget determination. The other one, which most companies use, is also a percentage of sales or percentage of revenue, that I will spend about 1% or 2% or 10% of my overall profitability or revenue towards marketing communication. And once all of that is decided, that's the time that you develop a very integrated marketing communication for each of these contact media, which is advertising, sales promotion, PR, publicity, personal selling, direct marketing, and internet. And each of these need to have their objectives and strategy. And once that symphony is achieved and created, that's when you can integrate and implement your marketing communication strategies. And what is very important from time to time is that you need to monitor, evaluate, and control your IMC program. So you need to know whether I'm able to generate bang for the buck that I'm spending in this. Hence, monitoring, evaluation, and measuring of the response from the market becomes very, very critical. So Prajakta, that would be the end of a couple of my slides that I wanted to take some of our viewers through, so that we could set the context and give them some basic concepts.
Absolutely. I think that was quite brain stimulating and thought provoking. I'm sure we all have learned a lot of insights and whatever queries a lot of people were having, most of them have been cleared already. So I would like to invite Ms. Samiksha, who's from AC BM Global Mentor Academy. She has a certain set of questions that she would like to seek answers from you. So if with your new permission, may I please invite her? Hi, Samiksha.
Absolutely.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, sir. It's a great pleasure having you on board as a speaker. Thank you. With that, I would like to proceed to my question. I was intrigued to know that how we can launch a new product and service line so that it fits the existing brand. Sir, what is your view on brand extension?
I think that's a very pertinent question in today's times, because a lot many brands are going through a lot of brand extensions and line extensions. So if you really look at it, there are merits and demerits of doing that. Many brands know that they have a certain target audience and they have a certain
Yeah.
channel of distribution which is already available to them, and they have a strength in particular category. So when they try to launch a product in a related category, or sometimes it could be unrelated as well, they could actually generate very quick revenues and profitability. uh, Many a times it doesn't go right, and you will see that 70 to 80% of the times most of the brand extensions normally fail. uh, and I think it's largely because of the self awareness of the brand, and it's similar in leadership as well. If your self awareness is not right, the brands are going to falter somewhere along the line. Plenty of companies have demonstrated monumental success with brand extensions. If you look at Colgate, uh, while they came with the dental hygiene, but when they launched the Colgate toothbrush, which accompanied the Colgate cream, I think that was a very beautiful line extension for them, because it gave them immediate returns, it gave them immediate turnover
Yeah.
and immediate profitability, without really having to invest too much into a new brand. But at the same time, a phenomenal brand like Colgate also floundered, and when they tried to launch another line extension called beef lasagna, and I think many of you would not even remember that Colgate really tried to launch a food brand, and they tried to getting into a food brand, moving away from the dental hygiene, and have a beef lasagna. And you would not be surprised to know that that brand extension failed miserably. If you look at Frito-Lays as well, I think Frito-Lays is a fine example of how you must not do very unmindful brand extensions. So Frito-Lays is known for their salty potato chips, but they tried to launch a lemonade. Now, when you have a lemonade, you imagine a very sugary, sweet beverage. But if you look at the Frito-Lay's chips, that is something different, because your mind is giving you signals that no, Frito-Lay's is more about potato chips, something spicy, and it doesn't go well with lemonade, which has to be a sugary, sweet beverage. Uh, and I think that's the limbing part of our brain, which doesn't control language, which tells you that something here doesn't feel right, and that's where most of the brands will really go wrong. But yes, the brand extensions have their own advantages, wherein you can penetrate a new category and establish uh, within the established brand name. You will have pre-existing loyal customers, like in the example of Colgate cream and toothbrush that you saw. The same set of customers can go and buy a Colgate toothbrush
Yeah.
as well. It boosts the brand image, and that's what I think the marketeers need to look at, that if the brand extension is adding to your brand image, is strengthening your brand image, it makes sense. But if it doesn't, then I think it can be very problematic. And if you're doing the right brand extension, it involves very low costs, because generating a brand and improving the brand recall, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of marketing dollars to be able to achieve that particular sense of the brand recall. And if you try to launch a new brand, it will require that much more investment. So those are the advantages, but again, you have the risk as well. So if you overextend the brand into an unrelated market, it can actually weaken your brand image, and that can also weaken the sales and the market share for your existing brand, which is already very popular. It can also create some negative impact in case the product doesn't perform, and it happens many times in the automobile industry that people launch a certain product line uh, within the same customer segment, and if that new product doesn't perform, it affects the overall existing brand as well. And if it is not meeting the customer needs properly, then I think the overall brand takes a beating. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. That was quite brief, crisp, and clear. So I would like to ask my next question. So for all the young budding marketers like us who is aspiring to have a specialization in marketing, can you suggest what are the potential career opportunities in integrated marketing?
Uh, I think I'll answer it in two parts. When you're doing marketing, I think one should not focus only on the integrated marketing communication, because it becomes a very small focused subset, and you may not be looking at the overall opportunities available in the marketing space. But yes, in today's times, if you look at it, most of the companies are really struggling to meet the final uh, utilization of their factories. So the overcapacity exists in most of the companies today. So they have capacity to produce more goods, and they need to sell those out. For that, the communication is the most important part. And whether it is integrated marketing communication or the marketing communication, I think the most important tenet here is the communication. If the communication is clear to the customer, the brand would be successful in meeting the unsatisfied needs of the customer. And my request to all the young budding, whether it's entrepreneurs or some of you who are going to join companies, that look at the marketing message and the communication. If that communication is clear, not in terms of text and language, but if it's able to touch some chords in the heart of the customer, your brand is going to be successful.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Samiksha. It
Thank
was
you.
really nice to have you joining the webinar. May I please invite Kirtika from ACBM Global Mentor Academy? She would like to ask a couple of questions from her end. Hi, Kirtika.
Yes, sir.
Hi,
Good evening,
Kritika.
ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good
Sir,
evening.
thank you for joining us, and we all are privileged to have you on the board.
My pleasure.
Sir, my name is Kritika Bansal, and I'm from ACBM Global Mentor Academy. And sir, I have a couple of questions to ask. So my first question is, like organization work on their brand name and brand logo. So what is the importance of that brand name and logo for any of the organizations?
I think that's going back to basics, and that's a very pertinent question, because uh, a brand, a logo, or a name is nothing but a promise that my brand will give you the same quality, the same service, and the same look and feel everywhere, wherever you go and buy my product. So if you go back to history, uh, you had very limited production, but for somebody who used to make very nice cakes or bread, that's your baker in the neighborhood, they started putting their names on their shops, so that people know that if you buy from this particular shop, it's going to taste in a particular manner, it's going to taste nice, and the quality is going to be good. So those are some of the earliest forms of branding in terms of logo and names. Why it has become important today? Because the world has become very global. And if you look at one of the fine examples, whether it is Coke or McDonald's, so if you go to an outlet of McDonald's, whether it's in New York, New Delhi, New Jersey, or Mexico City, or Jakarta, or Dhaka, or Colombo, you will have the same look and feel. You will have the same CIP of the logo. You will
Absolutely.
have a very similar way of presenting the menu or presenting the product to you. Yes, the product may change. The product may change depending on the local taste, and I think that's something that McDonald's did phenomenally well in when they entered the Indian market. That they really wanted to customize to address the taste buds of the Indian or the South Asian markets, and they did quite phenomenally well over there. Going back to Coke, if you buy a Coke Classic in the US or in India or in Indonesia or Mexico, I think the taste is going to be same, depending on, and that's a big challenge that they face, because the concentrate is obviously a very secret formula, and the quality of water that they get from can also completely change the taste of Coke, what is produced in the US, Mexico, or India. But they have to make sure that the taste does not change, because consumers are and this is again something which is a part of the limbic brain, which does not respond to the text or the messages. It's all about the taste, about the five senses, and it has nothing to do with the communication language. That if it doesn't feel right, customers are going to reject it. And when the Coke and Pepsi challenge happened, and Pepsi tried to show with a blind taste challenge that look, most of the customers when they are blinded or blindfolded, they really like Pepsi over Coke, and Coke got intimidated with that. That this can really lead to erosion of market share, and that's when they launched a new Coke, which was sweeter than Pepsi, which taste which tasted better than Pepsi. But when the distribution started happening, there were unsold stocks because people didn't want to buy the new Coke. They had a particular taste, a particular image of the brand in their mind, and they wanted to only buy and consume that Coke. And Coke, to their credit, I think within 3 to 4 weeks, went back to their original Coke, launching it as original Coke, and gave it to consumer. Within those 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they really lost market share. Well, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir, surely. So my next question is positioning a right product to the right customer is very much important. So what should marketers do to position their product to the right customer?
Can you repeat your question? I think you are cracking up. If I can just understand your question a little
Yes,
bit
sir.
better.
Yes, sir. Sir, positioning a right product to the right customer is very much important. So what should marketers do to position their right product to the right customer?
Okay. So Kritika, if you remember your textbooks of marketing, there's a concept called STP,
Yes, sir.
segmentation,
Yes, sir.
targeting and positioning, and that teaches us very very well that you cannot be everything to everybody. And in strategy as well, if you study Michael Porter, he says very clearly, most of the brands fail when they try to be everything to everybody. So you cannot be everything to everybody, and there's no one size fits all solution available in the market. And hence it becomes very very important to segment your overall market category. So you need to know where you're going to play, in which segment are you going to play. For that, you have the segmentation of the market, which can depend on the usage pattern, which can depend on the demographics, on the genders, on the age category. And then you realize that the product that you're going to make, and most of the companies actually do it reverse. They create a product and then they try to segment their market. And that's where they go wrong. The first step has to be segmentation of the market, that this particular segment of the market is going to be more profitable for us, or our capability of the organization is able to meet the needs of the customers in this particular segment, and hence we can create a product. Once you have done that, you need to have very targeted communication to that particular segment. And then finally comes the positioning part of it. And I think uh, L. Rice and Jack Trout explain it very, very beautifully. Positioning is nothing but a battle for the mind space. So the positioning battle is not fought in the marketplace, it is fought in the brain of the customer. And somewhere in the brain of the customer, if you position your product at the right place, that's when you win the battle. And with that right segmentation, targeting, and positioning, you're able to create a successful positioning for your brand and able to generate more sales and more long lasting customer relationship. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It was a beautiful, like you explained with the beautiful example, and it was all clear. So my next question is like many of the companies do campaigns, integrated marketing communication campaigns. They do. So how they measure the success of that campaigns? That campaign is success or not? What are the measures they see?
So honestly, nobody has got it right. Okay, and there is no panacea for that particular problem. And I think one of the marketeers explained it very beautifully, that I know half of my marketing campaign or my marketing expenses or my marketing dollars are working, and the remaining half is not, but I do not know which half. And that's the problem of most of the marketers. They're trying to throw darts, uh, trying to hope that some dart will stick on the right, some dart will actually hit the bullseye. So there's no real solution for this, but naturally most of the brands can do it in some form. So if you look at the integrated marketing communication, uh, you when you start with your website. So you have to first make a very comprehensive website which caters to all the information to the customer's needs, and the landing page performance, which is telling you how many visits you had to your website, how many people clicked on various tabs of your website, how much did the customer really spend time on your website. So that tells you your landing page performance, your website performance, how good, how creative, how engaging your website is. The next part is with the help of Google Analytics, it has become quite easy. So if you do a deep dive into the referral traffic on your target website, so you do a search engine optimization through which you improve the performance of your search. So if somebody is searching, let's say for a car, and a particular brand name comes up, uh, that's how relevant you have made your website and how good you have performed in terms of search engine marketing. With that, and with the help of PPC, which is the pay per click model, you have certain banner ads and stuff. So how many people are really going to PPC or clicking on your particular banner ads? So that also tells you what has been your click through rates on your website as well as on your banner ads. So that can tell you very clearly how the performance of this has been. Another part can be email in terms of direct emailing. And within that, if you have uh, clicking buttons to go to your website or to your campaign, particular campaign of that particular brand for that moment, that will also tell you in terms of click-through rates how well your particular campaign is doing. And then Google and YouTube throw up various analytics in terms of how many people viewed your particular ad in which territory, in which district, in which colony, or which municipality of that particular district. So you can actually go to the road numbers and the street names to be very, very precise and specific what has been the success rate. And the other way is to track the social media insights as well. So these days people are employing, or the companies are employing a lot of people who gather the feedback and the comments of various social media users as far as your particular brand is concerned. And that can give you a very uh, good way of telling how successful your integrated marketing campaign has been. And you need not have a particular very elaborate format to do it. You can actually do it in a simple spreadsheet. So yes, it is a little bit vague, but I think we are getting there. And we can actually today calculate with a lot of accuracy what has been the cost per lead and what has been the cost per sale. And I would urge all of you young students to focus on that when you get into the organizations, to really calculate the rate of return for your media spent.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for addressing the question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kritika,
So
for
much for
joining in. Thank you.
my pleasure.
I think we have some time constraints. Unfortunately, we won't be able to attend any further questions. But all the participants who are listening or watching us right now, in case you have any relevant questions or queries, you can reach out to ACBM Global Mentor Academy and you can send out your queries, and we'll be more than happy to address them and to help you out. As of now, I would like to invite Mr. Vikas Upadhyay, who is going to be here for concluding the event and for conveying his word of thanks to Mr. Madhu P. Singh for being such a gracious orator and a brilliant expert in the field of automobile. I'm sure this has been a very enriching and a fruitful session for all of us. Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, Prajakta.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, sir,
So
we just wrapped up the session, and sir has been really, really gracious and kind enough to solve a lot of queries which were coming in from the audience. So, I'll be urging you to speak some words, before we can officially sign off.
okay, thank you, Prajakta. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Madhu Singh for accepting our invitation to be a speaker here. And the presentation was very comprehensive. So I think there was no scope for questions, I believe. So
Yes,
presentation actually
yes, it
took care
was
of all,
very detailed. Yes,
very
it was
detailed, very
very.
deep dive. And I think, branding is basically communicating consistently and clearly the perceived value
Yes.
of a company or a product and service. So that is branding. And in today's scenario, I think Mr. Madhu Singh has cited an example of Henry Ford, where it was the first car which was commercially produced, and consumer did not have a choice then. So it was like a monopolistic market. But today's scenario, there are a number of choices the consumer has, and in fact, many companies are looking at disruptive strategies, and also the blockchain. This kind of tools for creating a demand or creating a market niche for themselves. So yes, today's scenario is different, and Mr. Madhu Singh has covered the overall subject, integrated marketing and calibrating brand in a very lucid way, very simple way he has explained. And I hope this will be beneficial to our students, and we have faculties also from colleges on board right now. So definitely, this is not the end. This is just the beginning, Madhu, and we will also have many more sessions like this in the coming time. So I really thank you for participating from the bottom of my heart. And on behalf of ACBM, I would like to extend, sincere gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It has
Yes.
been absolute delight, and we are feeling absolutely elated for having you. It was a wonderful session, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you very much, Prajakta, and thank you very much, Mr. Vikas Upadhyay as well. For those of you who do not know, Vikas is also a very dear friend, and it was upon his request that I joined this. And I must compliment all of you that you're doing a phenomenal job in helping the young entrepreneurs as well as the young students who are just getting into the corporate roles, because there's so much of information available there that they really do not know which information to consume and what guidance to really take. So I think with the kind of very illustrious speakers that you've had before, they've got to know a lot of things, and we will continue to handhold them and mentor them in their journey. So it's been my pleasure as well to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for imparting
Thank
the
you.
knowledge. Please take care and stay safe. Thank you.
You too. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.